The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Forge Fitness and Nutrition LLC, the podcast hosts, owners, employees, contractors, partners, or affiliates. This presentation may include the use of explicit language. Listener or viewer discretion is advised. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the Forge Fitness, Nutrition, and Habit podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the athlete's edge, and the general theme is training like a pro. Today, we have the amazing coach, Samantha Ostarello.
Hi, guys.
I'm so happy that you're not only part of the Forge team for over 3 years now, but you're so reliable, dependable, not only just for me, but for all of your clients. You just do an incredible job, and having this moment to talk about your history and putting it on the record for people to see, I think is going to be inspiring. You have such a unique perspective living in Italy, being an American at the same time, having that background and that professional athleticism, yet also higher education, including Purdue University. Connect with the audience a little bit. Let them know more about you and kind of dig into it.
Thank you for all those kind words, Michael. I really appreciate it. It's been a joy of mine to be a part of the Forge family for, like you said, about 3 years, a little bit more. I couldn't be more blessed with that. But going from a collegiate athlete at Purdue University, where you are taken care of, you are flying charter, you are getting the best food, everything, to playing pro. I played pro basketball for 10 years overseas. I played in about 7 different countries, anywhere from China to Turkey to Europe. So it's been a journey. And with that journey, though, the nutritional aspect of it comes into play a ton. I've seen the American diet. I've seen the Mediterranean diet. I've seen what they eat in Asia, and kind of transcending that throughout my life. I mean, I'm 33 now. I started when I was 21. Obviously, I'm not eating the same way as I was then, or training the same way. And that's really important. But my love and passion for fitness and all things started when I was about a sophomore in college. I was a very scrawny athlete. I was sneaky strong, as they called it. I weighed like 150 pounds soaking wet. I'm 6'2". So I was a little bit underweight, a little, under muscled, at the Big Ten, playing Big Ten basketball. So I put on about 20 pounds of muscle, and that came with a lot of sacrifices. I was in the gym all the time trying to put on that muscle. But with that comes the nutritional side of it. You have to eat, you have to fuel. As I'm aging, I start to understand, okay, now I'm 6'2". I have 180 pounds on my frame. I am strong. I'm ready to go. About 28 years old hits, and then I have to start dialing back what I'm eating. I'm not eating as much. The quantity starts to go down a little bit, and my training starts to, I would say, a lot more prehab, rehab, and a lot more warm up. But it was an interesting transition going into my 30s, but it has been so rewarding, and I'm excited to take anybody on that has, that wants to transition in their life too. You don't have to be a pro athlete. We all have bodies. We're all human, and you can train like an athlete even if you aren't one.
It's interesting because when you said that you had to make that transition, so what was that like, moving out of the world of your own super hyper focused fitness and nutrition? And there's a mindset too there, and then there's habits that codify those things.
I've always had a passion to help others, whether it be community service, which was obviously instilled through any kind of basketball program I was with. But I realized that when I was overseas, the lifestyle that the Europeans have, Italians in specific, Italians specifically, eating pasta, eating pizza, eating all these things that we think and deem as junk in the States, or like we're going to get, overweight or obese by eating these things. Well, why aren't they obese and overweight? Why aren't these habits the same across the world? And then it dawned on me, I have the expertise from school, and I have the expertise from living it. So why not combine those things and really try and help society to lead them in the right direction, even though there's misinformation everywhere from every corner of social media. And that's the problem that we run into this day and age is you see something on social media and, oh, that must be truth, because we can Google everything. Believe it or not, I grew up when there wasn't Google. And so we had to speculate, and we had to, tell stories and figure out what the truth was from past history. Now you can Google everything, but that doesn't mean it's right. There's information, and then there's truth. And sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. So I felt the calling for it because I've lived it. I was blessed enough, and I lived a lifestyle that was able to kind of put the book work and the everyday together. And I want to help people with that.
You're highly educated. You have a advanced degree in kinesiology. And I think that probably served you not only as a professional athlete, I know for a fact it serves you now, but what was that passion catalyst for you that was outside of athleticism? Was there a moment in your life, or can you recall that period where you said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life after my professional career?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that moment was my sophomore year when I was like, okay, I am a 6'2" athletic basketball player, but what is going to give me the edge over 6'5" and more athletic? What is going to give me the edge over a basketball player that grew up in Chicago when I grew up in South Dakota, not playing on the same type of courts whatsoever, playing the same basketball whatsoever? What is going to do that? And it was choosing something that I could really dive into and kind of take apart. I think the study of biomechanics is my passion. It's super fascinating for me. I was to the cue of like angular work. What is going to make me faster, bigger, stronger, more explosive? How can I monopolize that? And when I started figuring it out, when I started obviously going to school for it, I was like, oh, I can be way more efficient, way more effective if I just tweak one little thing. Oh, wow, my knees don't hurt anymore when I do that. Oh, wow, my back doesn't hurt anymore when I do that. And then it just kind of snowballed into, well, this should be life. Everybody should be privy to this. It's free information. They just need somebody to give it to them. So that was that moment for me. And that's what made me a good basketball player to a great basketball player, good person, let's say, to a teacher throughout life.
How does training as a pro athlete differ from what you would recommend for an average person then?
That's a very interesting question. Well, I would say my overlap with a lot of my clients and how I start them with is the prehab portion of it. What are your asymmetries? What are your dysfunctions throughout your body? How can we correct those? And how can we make your body move more efficiently, work more efficiently together? And it might solve XYZ. Like I said, if I started focusing on my core work, my back stopped hurting, my knees stopped hurting, and the rest is history. So I really bring that into my clients' programs. I've had a lot of clients say, I don't want to train like a professional athlete. We're all doing the same work, just different variations of it and different degrees of intensity.
But that is something that is very interesting, is that people come to us as professionals with extreme bias, and they usually have no fucking idea what they're talking about, but they come with it like they do. They're like, well, I saw this girl with a big ass on Instagram and she said, so that's now the qualifications for expertise in the United States.
Right.
So how do you contend with that? Because that must be very frustrating for somebody at your education level and with your career history professionally, to have somebody come and say, by the way, I'm going to hire you, but here are all my stipulations.
And I say, do you want to be functional when you're 70? Functional movement training is the key to success. If you keep up with primitive patterning and functional movement, the rest is history. Now, if you're going for aesthetic, okay, yes, of course, there's a section for that. But most of that involves surgery. These social media influencers are a mix of that. They're not simply going to the gym and putting in the work. They are imposters, and they're selling a tainted message, unfortunately, for the general population. I've been shown Instagram pages. Oh, I really like what they're doing. I really like what they're doing. And I say, okay, well, these are the regressions for that. So until you can do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're not hitting that movement safely. Our body should work systematically. I actually have a hard time, and I've grown with it, but I have a hard time prescribing muscle groupings. A strict chest day, for example. I have a hard time with that because the chest is directly correlated to the shoulders, which is also directly correlated to the core. We have all of these multifaceted joints and they need to work together. And if we start isolating them, machine work, it has its place. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a place for it. But strictly machine work has killed a lot of people's hopes and dreams because there's dysfunction within that. You're not able to have the mobility within an athletic movement. Or I say an athletic movement, a typical movement, picking a baby up off the ground. That is a complex exercise.
I understand when you say athletic, because what you're about is the potential of your body. What most people hear is functional. I didn't realize that somebody would come to you with a bias and says, well, I don't want to be trained like an athlete though. I would push back on that and say, Well, why not? Because people are so aesthetically driven.
Hmm.
But I have this general rule, and then I have a follow-on question for you. But let me just make this one general statement: is that people have a tendency to focus so much on the extrinsic goal. It's
Hmm.
something far in the past, the future. Like, say, I want to lose, I don't know, 50 pounds. That's easy to
50
right.
pounds. That's
Yeah, yeah.
that's a typical one. So yeah.
Its immediate response to that is, well, then why didn't you do it when you're 10 pounds up?
Yeah.
If you're 50 pounds up,
Where did that motivation? Yeah,
so
why wasn't that motivation there?
yeah, when did 50 pounds become the number? And I get really frustrated because I know for a fact the composition outcome, the losing of body fat, because everyone says weight loss, but we're going to be technical on this podcast because we're professionals. The reduction of body fat is not important enough to people to not get fat. They just hogging, man, just eating and eating and eating. That's a little tongue in cheek. But my empathy starts to play a role here because there's so many different factors that can lead to that behavior. And there's usually very deep rooted. One of the things that separates Forge, I think, is that we actually get to the root cause, looking at people's habits and their behaviors. I could write somebody the best workout plan in the world. You could write the most incredible mobility, hip opening, shoulder retraction program that aligns the spine of somebody a way that would probably fundamentally change their life. But if they don't do it, it doesn't work. And I think that that's what happens is that people silo fitness and nutrition. They like to put their nutrition over here and they fat it. Oh, I'm doing keto. I'm doing paleo. It's always some bullshit. They're always coming up with some nonsense. And then on the other side, they put their fitness. And what I find fascinating is that you're getting resistance. And why wouldn't you want to train like an athlete? Because athletes have three things that transcend a sport. That is force production, the ability to decelerate, which reduces the chances of injury,
Injury prevention's huge.
longevity and mobility through the joints. The force velocity curve, your ability to produce force, is predicated on length tension relationships between reciprocal muscle groups. I want to keep it simple, but remember that what you do to one side of your body, it will reciprocate another muscle group on the other. So chest protraction, that's a big problem. People are slouching. And I know when you're sitting, you'll start to slouch out a little bit, but then when you stand up, chest up, shoulders back, retraction, depression. But what I find fascinating is that people will immediately pigeonhole you and say that I don't want to be optimal. People stop thinking about the aesthetic, which they clearly don't care about because they would have never gotten to the position that they're in. And especially now, because the first thing that somebody does as soon as they fail at a fitness or nutrition program is they're suddenly part of the body positivity movement. It's not that hard. All you have to do is remember that the human body is an athletic machine. Ferraris require a significant amount of maintenance because they are high performance machines, and so are human beings.
Absolutely.
People got to stop being such babies. They have to be able to look at themselves, not in the mirror, but the metaphorical mirror. I'm going to do a whole podcast on the myth of accountability.
Intrinsic motivation and accountability. It's intrinsic.
Yeah, and the only thing that a coach can actually do is support. We can't hold anybody accountable. Accountability requires force. I can't just like fly to your city and physically force somebody to do what they committed to.
We could, but that's not our pricing.
I want to capstone that tangent, that tangent is worthwhile because people need to realize that there's nothing wrong with training to be optimal, and athletes train to be optimal. So, okay, well, by sport. So would you say that somebody who golfs is going to have a very different training algorithm than somebody who plays rugby?
I would say that the meat and potatoes are the same and the veggies are a little different.
Flexion, extension, rotation, adduction, abduction. Human beings move within a plane. We have a transverse world and we all move within it. Then you optimize for the sport. Well, what if your sport is being a mom? Lower back injuries for adults. Major problem. And guess what? It's picking up your keys, picking up your kids.
We do it constantly. We do it with groceries on the ground. We do it with taking things from the dishwasher and putting them up in the cabinet. We do it from picking up the laundry basket. We do it from playing with the kids, picking up the kids. There are so many everyday instances where we use same movement, same functionality, same mobilities as an athlete. We are all athletes. Every human is an athlete. It is the degree of athlete that makes us different. Everybody has that same potential for optimization.
And you have to be honest. You have to say to yourself, here are my problems. And then you're better able to express that to a professional. And then we can take that information and it's legitimate. We're not just getting mouthpiece work. We're actually getting a true sense of somebody taking personal responsibility and moving forward so that they can actually improve the quality of their life with with precision. And that's why you hire a coach. You can do your tactics on your own, but if you want it to be precise, I just wanted to mention that to people who are listening is that yes, you should train to be an athlete. So a mother is an athlete.
Absolutely. They are the most athletic athletes.
They need agility. They need speed and quickness. They need strength endurance, cardiovascular recovery capacity.
Genuinely, seriously, most all of the time you're doing that sleep deprived. So you're not even getting the full, recovery of an athlete.
That's a great point. People need to hear this stuff. They really do. What is one of those high performance habits, like a really high level habit from your athletic days that you don't give up, that this is something that is now codified as part of you?
Yeah, I would say working out in the morning, working out before anything else is going in the day, because that way I don't have an excuse as the day starts to get away from me of I should do this. Oh, well, now it's the afternoon and I'm tired and I have another meeting. Well, I really should get some sleep if I'm going to try and get up in the morning. No, make it a habit. Get up every day at the same time if you can, and put in the work. Every day I don't get up and do an extensive lift. But every day I get up, if I'm tired that day when I get up, maybe I'll do an extra recovery day. Maybe I'll do an extra mobility day. But I do something to keep that habit going. Ever since I was a kid, open gyms were at 5:45, 6 a.m. So I was used to getting up. Practices more often than not were at 6 a.m., especially at Purdue. We had 2-a-days. And I just carry that over. Now I'm getting up at 4:30 so I can have my time. I do something for me. That's my time. And then I handle my dogs and handle my family and go about my day, handle my clients and so forth. And that's not even to mention I'm a newly certified firefighter, so I'm doing that as well. So I'm taking responsibility for what I can control, and that is my time that I can control. It's a morning workout.
I think that's a great piece of advice. I'll just echo that. If I am not executing my workout by 10 a.m., which is rare, usually it's much, much earlier, I have really struggled to do it later in the day. Well, you mentioned something that kind of sparked another question for me. Tell me about a time, or just even let me know if this ever happens to you. I mean, because I know it happens to me. Do you ever have to push through a time where you just do not want to train that day? I guess there's two more questions on the back of that. Okay, so bear with me. The days you don't want to do it, you just wake up and you're like, nope, no. How often do you push through? And then how do you do it?
That's a very loaded question. So yes, of course it happens. I mean, there are some days I roll over and I'm like snooze at least once, but I already know that that's cutting into typically my mobility in the before the workout, or my cool down at the end of the workout. So like I kind of chop off 6 minutes on either side of that and make it even. But during those moments, I'll also start to adjust in my head whatever I had planned to train for that day. I'll start adjusting in my head. Hey, maybe I could just do, more of a maintenance set versus if I'm in a hypertrophic phase. Maybe I'll just continue with the habit of getting up. Maybe I'll just get a little bit more mobility and stretch in. Maybe I will do yoga. That's always nice. There are always options for that. Are there days where I'm like, yeah, screw that, I'm going back to bed? Absolutely. But I know my body well enough to understand when that day is. And I would say that's maybe once a month, because I take care of other things first. I go to bed when melatonin window is, which is like 8:15, 8:30 p.m. I know when my body starts to get sleepy and I don't fight it. Because if you start fighting it and you're like, oh, I'll just stay up till 10. Now you're going to have a harder time falling asleep and you're not going to have as much restful sleep. And this is a whole different tangent, but now we go into, less REM sleep, which you need to recover. So I take care of things that I can before that happens the morning of I'm not getting up to train today. I take care of the nutrition before that. I take care of the sleep before that. I take care of the hydration before that. And then it happens, like I said, maybe once a month where I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting up. Your body can do it. It's your mind that's going to fail you first. Your body is never going to be like, I just have to stay in bed. That's here. That's between the ears. And if you can silence all of that, the sky's the limit. You are way better off because your body will keep doing what you're putting in front of it.
What would be one tip that you could give right now that would be super useful to overcoming that mental barrier of I just don't feel like doing it today?
What's your why? I always go back to that with my clients. If they hear this, they're going to laugh. I always say, well, what's your why? And it brings them back to, hey, I want to be healthy when I'm 50 years old or 60 years old. I want to be able to move with my kids, my grandkids. All right. Is that one day going to affect that? No. But if you do that one day and it breaks the habit, and then you do it the next day, and then you do it the next day, and then you do it the next day, now we have regression. So I always bring it back to what's my why? And I never tell them what their why is. I have it written down. I have it in my note, but I want you to say it because it makes it real. It makes it real for you. It could be, health issues. We don't want those to flare back up, whatever they are. Will that one day affect it? No, but will 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and you've already broken that habit and that consistency? Absolutely. So what's your why? That's what I will always go back to. And if you truly mean it, you'll do it for yourself. You will put yourself first. Maybe you're always taking care of other people. I'm that way. I will take care of everybody around me before I take care of myself. And I will run myself into the ground 9 times out of 10, especially for people I love. But there is a time and a place where I have to go back within myself and I say, well, if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of all of them. So I need to focus on me. I got to do what I got to do in the morning for me so I can help them. That's my advice for that. Put yourself first. It's not selfish because you're still able to help those that you want to help.
I'm really glad that you touched on that and you used a very specific word that I appreciate, which is selfish. I have found that more and more people use that as an abdication. They basically say, oh, I can't work out because I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm like, bitch, you can't help anybody if you're fucking unhealthy.
Right.
Now, you had mentioned something in a coaching component here that I want to touch on. What is one lesson that you learned from high-level competition that you use coaching others?
I'll try and put this succinctly. Where you are today is because of what you've done in the past. No matter what it is, if you are successful, it's things that you've done. Most of the time, you're not getting handed something that is just making you uber successful. Where you are today is what you've done in the past. You've made that choice. So if you want to change that, you have to do it. Period. No coach, no spouse, no mentor, no social media influencer. Nobody can tell you, hey, if you start doing this today, you're going to make it. You're going to be better. You have to choose that. It's an accumulation.
For most people in the Western world, if you are not satisfied with where you are at, it's your fault.
Absolutely.
You have no one else to blame but you. And God, people hate that. Man, that gets people really riled up because people, they're ready for the excuses. They got it lined up, Sam. They've got them like, boom, boom, boom. I have this excuse and this excuse and this, and I'm an asshole for bringing it up. No, you're an asshole for ignoring it.
Yeah. There are always signs. There are always like precursors to what's going to happen. You have to be aware of them, whatever it is. I am a foodie. I will tell you straight off the bat, I love good quality food, and it's probably really high in fats, whatever. I also have a very big sweet tooth. When I was a kid, gummy worms were my downfall, the sour ones. When I was an athlete, I had them on the bench. Like, it was just bad. But there's a balance to it. And there were times when I would get to a place where maybe I wasn't performing as well. And I'd be like, what's going on? Oh yeah, you just ate a whole bag of sour gummy worms before the game. Probably not a good idea. You take responsibility for that. And then you make a change if you want to make that change. But as soon as you see the result of that change, it is addicting. So you start making these other changes. It starts with one thing. Change one thing, it'll start changing the others. We live in a society that is involved with consumerism. I buy it, I want a result. I paid for it, I should get whatever the byproduct of paying for something is. Well, it doesn't really work that way when you've accumulated 10 years of unhealthy habits. It takes time to unravel those things. Yes, you're going to see early successes. Maybe you're completely sedentary and you have a poor diet. If we just change your diet and you're still sedentary, do you think you're going to get results? Yeah, some. Chill until your new homeostatic point hits, and then we have to change another thing, and then we have to change another thing. But we don't change them all at once as to not overwhelm. Your body gets overwhelmed too. That's a stressor. And then there's a cortisol dump, and then that's a whole other thing. It takes time, and that's what I want to tell people that, do a free consult. Hey, this isn't going to correct itself in a year, 2 years. It is a lifelong journey. The end goal is, to put it blunt, a grave. That's what it is. At the end of your life, that's when you should stop trying for your habits, for your health, for your fitness and nutrition. It gets a little bit easier when you set those and have consistency with it, but there is no finish line. It's not everybody gets a medal. It is your life. It is your journey.
And I don't think people really appreciate how very difficult it is to be unwell, to have poor mobility, to have poor bone density, to be muscularly unfit, to have poorly functioning organs by the time you're in your late 60s and early 70s, when that should start happening in your 80s and 90s.
Yeah. I think the other side of it is they don't know how it feels to not feel that way. So when they start feeling good and they're like, "Oh, I wish I did this 15 years ago."
Isn't
You're
that
not
crazy? Often I hear that. Yeah.
you're not getting that time back. You might as well start now.
Middle age is 38.
Man, I am creeping up.
One of the things that I just kind of wanted to come back to was you had mentioned fuel and the gummy worms and some of the dietary choices that you make. You can get away with that when you're expending the kind of energy that you
Sure.
were
Absolutely.
from at least from an energy equation, but not from a chemical equation. There's a hormonal equation.
Correct.
That
Yeah.
that's not where I want to go with this. I want to transition our conversation into nutrition, because the nutrition of an athlete is so fundamentally different than that of a real worlder. I want to make a comparison between a high level athlete and then an everyday 9 to 5er, just, just the moms and dads that are out there that are just trying to make things happen. Tell us about what it was like, how under pressure, the travel, the stress, how hard was nutrition management then compared to now?
I'm going to start with a fallacy. So a lot of people think that being a professional athlete, all you're eating is grilled chicken and roasted vegetables and a carb. Well, yes and no. As long as you have the components of a balanced meal, you can get away with it. But I will say, when I performed my best, like, I always had the same pregame meal because I knew exactly how my body was going to react and respond to that meal. And I knew how that was going to produce the energy that I needed for a game. Okay. That's like 20% of the time. That is a pregame meal. That's not even 80% of what you're eating. Don't make it difficult. Get your protein, get your fats, good healthy fats, and get your complex carbs. Get the balance of those, and that doesn't differ from a general, a population or an athlete. That equation is the same. Get your fuel. You can't starve yourself to hit that. I have a little bit of body dysmorphia. I went through it in my early 20s, and not to like go way in deep about it, but I mean, there was a side of me that wanted to look good, but I couldn't look good and be a good basketball player. Those things didn't match because I was starving myself at some points. I wasn't getting the fuel I needed. I wasn't eating the amount of carbs I needed to produce the energy necessary. I went through a weird like protein kind of a stage, and because I wanted to be muscular, I wanted to look badass. Well, I didn't realize that I already did. People are like, "Oh, you're pretty fit." And I'm like, "No, I want to be bigger. I want to be stronger." Well, I couldn't be those things without eating the carbs that were required because carbs transport proteins to your muscles. We need this. It's a fact. And anyway, back to the point. I know I'm going off on a tangent there, but the fact of the matter is, for most general population, if we just follow a simple guideline to the macros of your nutrition, it will make a difference. It doesn't have to be down to the gram. You don't have to weigh all of your food all of the time. There can be balance within that. If you're going to be a competitor, a figure competitor or bodybuilder or something, sure, let's go, very detailed and minuscule. But most of the time, we don't need to be doing all of that. And that stresses people out. I don't know if you've ever had experience with that, but that stresses people out. They're like, I don't have a weight scale. I'm like, why do you need a weight scale? You've been eating fast food 2 times a day. Let's just not do that. Let's get to the basics. Let's get to the basics here. And then if we get to the point where you're in that upper echelon to make that difference, sure, let's talk about it. But we're not even remotely there.
You mentioned that, and I want to circle back to something, or just at least reference something you had said earlier. This is about the habit stacking. Just change one thing. Change one thing. And so what's low-hanging fruit? This is what I want the audience to really hear is, what is something that you just really know you need to change? And if it's 2 times a week of fast food, stop doing it. And then you're like, well, what do I replace it with? Well, replace it with whole foods. Replace it with a prepped meal. And when people are like, I don't know what to eat, I'm like,
breathing and eating is the things that we do every day of our life since we've been out of the womb. Even in the womb, we are eating.
I just want to make one point of contention about that, which is that there is enough misinformation and fads and gimmicks and tricks and marketing ploys and hooks and before and after pictures and dietary supplements and pills and all this other shit. It's like wading through a sewer. And there's nothing there that you want to eat. You don't want to put sewage in your mouth because that's all it is. And you just got to wade through it. I get that. I do get it. The reality is there is enough reasonable resources, not only online, but there's textbooks. You know how your body feels when you eat something specifically and how it's going to perform. So does everyone else. You can intuitively know that. You know that if you eat a piece of clean chicken that you cooked at home with some grilled asparagus, and maybe some sweet potatoes, you feel fantastic. You know that. So it's a lie. It's another way that people like to say, not my problem, not my fault. I'm fat because of everyone else. It's always a deflection. That's to the point where I'm going to say it's fucking annoying. I really do have a hard time getting my head around this. I've been doing it so long and I've watched the changes. I've seen the undulations of insanity. But social media has made it orders of magnitude worse than I could ever even possibly have a nightmare about, having to listen to people complain about how they can't do it. But then they tell me that they saw somebody on social media who did it for 7 minutes. And I saw this person and they did wall Pilates and now they're in the best shape of their life. And I'm like, please, please, please stop. It's nuts. But the thing that I wanted to get back to is that intuitiveness about eating. You know what to eat. Cut the 2 meals of fast food. Eat something clean. You can even go onto the Forge resources page that we have on our website, and you can download hundreds of meal plans that were written by a registered dietitian. They're right there. I know that requires a modicum of effort, and it's not glamorous. People believe that they're done as soon as they enroll in a program. Okay, I'm done. I enrolled, so now I'm in shape, and now I have to do fuck all.
I took responsibility and I took the first step.
Well, yeah, well, that's easy when you live in a Western world where 125 to even thousands of dollars, people just piss it away. They piss it. And then they complain about how they have no money and that, I can't afford the program because, well, yeah, it's expensive when you don't do it. It's really fucking expensive when you don't do what you committed to doing. But I want to come back to the nutrition thing though, because just for the sake of time and for the sake of people's patience, I don't want people to feel like this is an adversarial podcast. The gummy worms. And here's the difference. I'm going to give you the difference. Difference is that your expenditure and your need for simple carbohydrates exceeds by a significant margin that of somebody who's just sitting at home. And you said something earlier too that I wanted to make one more comment on, which was it takes years. It takes years to accumulate. You said that process of accumulation that I would like for everybody to consider. If you are up for 14 hours a day, and of that 14 hours, let's just say most of them are sedentary. Let's say somebody who's, I don't know, I got a basal metabolic rate of 1,800 calories a day to maintain homeostasis. And they have a total daily energy expenditure that's say somewhere around 25 to 2,600 calories. That would be more for a male than for a female, by the way. But let's just use this as an example. That would be your total energy out. The nutrition has to match for maintenance and for reduction of body fat. It has to have a certain deficit, a limited deficit.
Correct.
And then you're trying to gain weight, then you need a surplus of energy. Well, people don't understand that calories in and calories out is only half of an equation. It's your hormonal response to food plays the other part. They don't get that. Whenever you hear, I'm eating under calories, that doesn't mean you're going to lose fat. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to bring your gummy worms back into it. You're an athlete who is about to expend a significant amount of energy over your homeostatic output. So the days that you're not playing, you're not expending 3,800 calories. You're probably expending 25. And that would probably be even within your training protocol, right? So when you're at a rest and you're basically sitting around or you're having a brew out at the local pub, your output isn't even as close as it possibly. I mean, you're not even close to where you were at the prime of your athleticism. Sure. Well, when you eat those gummy worms, that is high fructose. So you are getting a ton of energy. You get an insulin spike. There's a lot of metabolic things that are happening in your body. You fall out of liposis immediately because your body has to contend with the insulin. Insulin being the beta response to glucose, and glucose now fosters all this pancreatic release. Then all of a sudden, glucagon's got to come in. It's got to wrestle around with those freaking insulin molecules that are going around and trying to create receptor sites for glucose to get into the cell. You're doing it though because you're utilizing the energy. You're moving through your glycogen stores. You're going to need the glucose. And so if you have a simple sugar in that environment, well, okay, that's fine. The source of the sugar, I would never personally eat something like that. That's not a judgment. That's a preference. I've read the ingredients and I'm just like, yeah, no.
Towards the end of my career, and when things start happening about 26, 27, you start to
Metabolic
hold.
decline.
There's a lot of things happening. I went to straight honeycomb, so I got better, and we learned.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to pick on necessarily. It's not a pick on, but it's a comparison. You could get away with
You
it,
can get away with it 100%.
but you couldn't get away with that now.
No, absolutely not. And I wouldn't even dream of it. I wouldn't even dream of it ever.
That brings me neatly along to balanced eating for performance versus eating for long-term health.
Yes.
You could get away with it because you were performing, but now things have changed. So you have to be a lot more careful and plan.
A lot more precise. Absolutely.
And by the way, as a general rule, I never use the word cheat meal.
Me neither.
It implies you're doing something wrong.
Yeah,
I say planned indulgence. Yeah.
I say balance. That's what I say.
Fair enough. But usually people, I try to speak to where people come at me with, like, they say, well, can I have a cheat meal once a week? And I say, no, you may not have a cheat meal. You may have a planned indulgence. I want people to start changing the way they say things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it does play a role in your psychology around this stuff.
100%.
Cheating implies wrongdoing. Wrongdoing implicitly results in shame. Shame changes your relationship with the behavior and your self-esteem. Stop it. Get some help. But back to my Michael Jordan.
Get some help. Stop. Get some help.
But I just wanted to bring us back to performance versus long-term health. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to eat like an athlete so that they feel clean? I'm not talking about the gummy worms. I'm talking about the whole food component of athleticism, where you have to eat properly to feel a certain way to perform at that level.
Yeah. Just having the mind-body connection of when you sit down for a meal, savoring it, experiencing it, tasting it. We live in such a go society that most people are eating while distracted. They're eating while they're driving. They're eating while they're watching TV. They're eating while their kids are playing, and they're just shoveling it in because that's their only time to eat. There's no mind-body connection to that task of eating. That, for me, I feel is the most basic way to bring somebody to the present. Use your senses. Smell, sight, taste, touch. Using those senses are really important for making that connection to what you're bringing into your body, and having the wherewithal of saying, I'm not just shoveling it.
Okay, you don't live to eat. You need to eat to live.
Correct.
And being in the moment and feeling how your body's responding to it. People, they think about taste only, smell and taste. That's the only thing that people consider. There's a disconnection that people have with their food. The problem is that the disconnection is how their body feels.
Yes.
We have to be very objective about making sure that the way that we interact with our food is healthy. And so I wanted to come back around to micronutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that the obsessive counting of macros is now an eating disorder. It's no longer just being vigilant.
Again, going back to my example of using a scale to weigh everything. Until we get to that upper echelon of having 10 carbs more makes a difference, it shouldn't make it into a discussion. Like, I think the guidelines of macros are important so people understand the components of what their food consists of. I've had it. I've had clients that are like, I know I went 13 grams over on my carbs. I said, okay. And what did you do that day? Now, if we're talking, about a tasty cake or a ho-ho or something, okay, we get into a different discussion. But being so focused on hitting that macro count, it drives me nuts. I've had questions of, hey, if I'm going on a 10-mile hike, should I eat more? I'm like, do you think you need to eat more? They're like, probably. I'm like, well, yeah, probably, because you're expending the energy. We've talked about that being in that caloric deficit, but there's a window. And if you're below that deficit, your body responds in starvation mode. It starts storing retention. Yeah. And it starts storing. There's a lot to it. And this is why you need to hire somebody that knows what the fuck they're talking about, because Instagram does not know what they're talking about.
I'm going to make a general statement, but before I make this general statement, I want to point out one more thing. When I said that I do believe that obsessive macro counting is becoming a low-lying eating disorder, it is because the intentions around it and the relationships they have with it. But I do want to make one other comment. I do believe that it is valuable for somebody who is just learning how to manage their nutrition to get a food scale and weigh all of their common foods so they understand portion size visually.
Yeah, what they're eating. Absolutely. You know, when I first get a client signed up and they want to start tracking food, I'm like, that's great, but it's not the end all be all. I would never want my clients to track for the rest of their life. One, it's tedious. Two, you should start to be a little autonomous. You should start being able to eyeball a plate and say, oh yeah, that should be 30 grams of protein right there. You know, I think that that's really a healthy relationship with food. And anyway, I had to tell them when they first sign up, I said, don't change a thing. I want you to log and record what your week is. I need to know how you eat and what you typically gravitate towards in a normal week before I can help you do anything. But there is a pressure that I get from some people of, well, I want to make the most of it. I just signed up. I want to be perfect in this. Why? That's going to send your body into a stress induced who knows what. And we're not going to get there. Just show me what you eat. And then we can make those little changes one at a time. It's a journey. It is not a checklist.
They want it all, they want it now, and they don't want to do much to get it. I grew up in the 80s, and drinking from a garden hose was about the best thing you could possibly do in your life.
Love that taste. A little rust on the end.
Yeah, just a little bit of dirt, you know? I mean, that's why I've got the constitution, is why my skin looks so good at 46.
There you go.
Yeah, but here's the reality. If they put a fire hose into my head and they turned it on, it's going to blow my brains out. And that's what people expect. Like they sign up and then they hit that valve and it drowns them. I 100% agree. People are so impatient. And here's the other thing that I just want to make one more comment, and we have to move on to mindset. It took you time to get to where you are, you know, and then you're sitting around for 14 hours out of the day. What makes you think for even a fraction of a second that you could work out 3 or 4 times a week for a half hour and combat the other 14 hours of the day that you're sedentary? Where are you thinking that happens? And then I go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, that's why they think that.
Yeah.
That's right. Because this plastic girl just told them that they could look exactly like her if they just work out for 7 minutes.
Yep.
But anyway, it's really difficult to navigate. And as people are going to notice that as professionals like you and I, with the level of experience we do, it's very easy for us to tangent. But one of my goals is to always bring it back to what we were discussing so that people will go, could just get to the damn point. And you know, we were just talking about that transition, that the performance versus eating for long-term health, that now you can't eat those gummies the same way that you used to. But let me ask you, does that mean that you don't ever eat them?
No, because I found, you know, alternatives to like trolley gummies that I would love to have. You know, they're made with more natural ingredients. They have 5 ingredients on them versus a list of 10 that I can't pronounce. It's because for me it was everybody's growing. It's growth. It's me understanding, okay, even though I still want these, can I find a better alternative for it that's a little bit more, you know, healthier for me?
Absolutely.
And on top of all of that, here's a little a shame thing for me is, I mean, I would house a bag of them. Now maybe I'm having 3 or 4 at a serving. The gluttony in me has changed, and that's really interesting. And here we go on another tangent. So we're opening up that neural pathway of like the dopamine hit, taking sugar, that reward center, and your reward center doesn't shut off because you had 1 or 2. That is self-control. That is a discipline. And time again, I mean, I would just house the entire bag. I'd be like, oh, there's no zipper on this. They won't keep. Let me just eat them all. Like everybody made excuses.
Beautiful example. What a perfect example of what somebody would call reasonable justification.
I am so human. When I talk to my clients, I'm like, I am just like you. I promise. We're all going through it. But maybe I have a little bit of, more formal education in certain areas. Maybe we brought up taxes earlier. Maybe you're really good at taxes and I would ask you for advice. Maybe you're a mechanic. I would take my car to you. We all have our specialties. And I think that's really important. And unfortunately, in the fitness and nutrition scape, you can literally go online, be a personal fitness trainer, and take an exam and be a personal trainer in 45 minutes. Like, it is outrageous. Can't do that for any other profession or career. Now, obviously, it's not credentialed.
So that would not be an accredited credential. So they wouldn't actually be able to legally train.
Correct, but people do it all the time. It does stop them. And unfortunately, too, the general population sees that and they're like, oh, you're a personal fitness trainer. Yeah. Okay. Well, what can you get me?
Our reputation.
Yeah. And it's really challenging because we see it all the time with these cookie cutter programming and just this ill advice on whatever the trend is, whatever the fad is. And
they're trying to sell.
Man, it's just suffocating. It's a real bad look for the fitness industry. Tell you that much. So I love when people do their research, and typically you can tell right off the bat when they're in it for the long haul. They want to gain the knowledge themselves. They want you to teach them. Mm-hmm. They're not going to spend let's say 800 hours of hands-on training that we've done. They're not going to they don't have time to spend that. They don't want to do that. They want to get the Cliff Notes version of how to help them where they are, period. They're looking to you for that, expertise.
Every single coach at Forge has advanced credentialing and thousands of hours of experience, hands-on live experience.
Yes.
We've all been in clinical settings, all of us. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I want to transition real quick. And as we kind of head through the end of this, there is something about athletes that I think does separate them from the general population, and that is their mindset.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm just curious to hear about your life after competition. I know there's probably a lot of emotional changes that you have to make. There's probably even internal conversations that change. And there's got to be something that you have to do to stay grounded as you transition out of something that is so uniquely specific. Mm-hmm. What would you say has been the hardest part for you in the last few years transitioning out of the professional sports world?
Honestly, it is when September hits and when April hits. September is typically the start of the overseas season, and April is the end of it when playoffs start. So, I have many friends still playing, and it's really difficult to see, of course, on social media, like all of their adventures and starting with their new teams. I miss that. I miss being able to kind of remake myself at a new team. I miss it's just like you're recreating yourself every year. And I miss that.
That makes a lot of sense to me. There is a camaraderie in team sports that is, I think that it's very valuable, not only from the competitor standpoint, but I think that fans get value out of it. I don't give a shit, but most people are really, really into sports. And I do understand why, having worked with athletic development, sports performance at a very high level. And I fell in love with the athleticism of that. The fandom, I don't personally resonate with, but I understand why people do. There is a sense of camaraderie, of belonging, and people do want to belong. They want to feel included in something. Is there anything outside of the physical performance that you have learned to value more?
I'm going to reiterate, and this sounds like such a cop-out, but it's true. You are where you're at because of the choices you've made. That's it. There's no secret sauce. There's no, I don't know. The mentality stays the same. The mindset is the same. If I want to do something, I will go do it, period. And that starts from when I was a kid and started training in sport. We didn't even know that. My mom was like, I had a coach that told me, you could get a scholarship and go to college and play basketball. And I told my mom, and she goes, they don't do that. And I was like, I don't know. That's just what they told me. Like, we weren't a sports family. We knew nothing about it. But I've lived by that truth. The little things become the big things. Everything that you're doing, day in, day out. And if you're doing things repeatedly, day in, day out, those habits, those choices are going to make you who you are today, present moment. If you're not taking action, that's also making you who you are. And that is also a choice. That's what it boils down to.
Isn't that unfortunate that that just really turns people off to hear? I just
Yeah.
don't understand what's happened in our culture that
Responsibility, man. It's responsibility.
I know. It's just
Every day. I went through just a little tidbit, but like extensive ankle injuries, hip injuries, all this stuff. Well, if I don't do a shoulder injury, I had shoulder surgery. If I don't do the the prehab before my workouts, I start to feel it almost immediately, right? Within the next week. I'm like, oh, yep, there's my shoulder again. Probably should keep doing my scat punches. It's been 14 years since I've had surgery. And eventually, I mean, it's stronger, but I've also put on a lot more muscle mass. Like there's always a change occurring, but it is those little things that remind you, oh yeah, we just got to keep that habit going. We got to keep doing what we did to get here. Just because you reach that destination, it's not the end. There is no finish line with it. Your finish line is you being comfortable in your own skin, moving how you want to move, being able to do what you want to do, taking the trip when you want to take the trip, making the hike when you want to make the hike. I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm glad I did this when I was young because, I don't know, 55-year-old person goes, I'm glad I hiked that when I was like 30 because I couldn't do it now. Why? Why can't you do it now? That is a crazy thought to me. Everybody's waiting for retirement to go take those trips. To do what? To sit on a tram and not be able to move about a country or wherever you want to go vacation? I don't get it, right? It's just such a foreign concept to me. And that goes back to I've lived in Europe for 10 years. They don't think that way. Every day for them is not planning necessarily for the future. They are living today for today, and they are taking care of their bodies in a way that reflects that. Well, I got a little heated on that. I'm sorry. My heart rate spiked.
that's my typical day. I,
Yeah.
I almost feel like I have adrenal fatigue syndrome at the end of every single day because I'm really passionate about
We're
this as well.
passionate. We are passionate.
I think all of us are at Forge for sure, but I think that my passion sometimes can even make uh, everyone else a little uncomfortable. And the reason is because, well, I'm coming on to my 25th year as a fitness professional,
Congrats. That's awesome.
and I've only seen it got worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
You're getting cynical.
I just really just have no time for the fucking bullshit. So I think my patience has waned a little bit in some regards. Now my empathy hasn't, but how quick I'm willing to intervene with somebody's nonsense,
Yeah.
it's probably half of what it used to. I could probably sit and listen to somebody for a whole 30-minute coaching session, just literally tell me all the reasons why they aren't able to do it. Now they get halfway through it and I'm like, all right, that's enough. Okay. All right. Are you looking for a solution or are you just bitching?
Are you just venting? Yeah, absolutely.
Let me know. I need to know because that's going to dictate how I make my next move. If you just need to express this to me and then we can work through it together, okay, I'm here for that. If you're just complaining and you want me to collude with you,
I'm out.
wrong coach. Because my job, the reason that you hired me was to take this stuff in and then provide you solutions and coach you to success. Do you know, as an athlete, you could have the best coach in the world, but if the athlete is coming in and they're unwilling to play and
Yeah.
they're a diva, then and they actually what ends up happening, not only does the coach write them off, the rest of the team writes them off, and eventually the fans write them off.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
translates into the day to day. So just for the interest of time, and since that was great, I really have loved this conversation. One last crazy question. What is the most ridiculous thing that you can recall in your professional career? Just a story that no one would ever believe that you can actually tell without getting in trouble. Yeah.
Okay. So in professional sport, I mean, I don't know if no one would believe it because it happens all the time, but I was on a team. I only played there one contract season, so 1 8-month stint, but there was a domestic player. Okay, so from that country that wasn't very good, wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and of course ends up being a home wrecker, sleeping with the coach, and just for playing time. Not even kidding, just for playing time. Just those kind of things. Like I have a really hard time with home wreckers in that sense of like, what are you doing? Like, get a life, Well, here's the twist on all this. So this happened one year. Um, she's still playing, and she's done it to four other teams with four other separate coaches. It's just like a constant thing, and she's very well known for doing this. And it happened. I mean, this is this is top. This is level A1. This is top tier sports. But yeah, and then we as a team, we're all just like, we don't want to play with you. We don't want to pass you the ball, but yeah, like those kind of stories are really interesting. I'll tell you a really funny recovery story. So in Italy, I got two stories. I'll make them quick. In Italy, I played for this team, loved it, loved my season there. The staff was great. So we end up winning this game, and we're driving back. We stop at an auto grill, just a little gas station, truck stop type thing on the side of the highway, and the manager, he like buys everybody beer, and I'm like, sweet, I love beer. So I get it, and I'm like, oh, we're celebrating the win. He goes, no, we're recovering. I said, what? He goes, yeah, the carbonation of the beer and the hops give like make you hydrate. I said, by all means, give me another one. So that was a interesting cultural, experience. And from then on, like,
Scientific, but it was cultural.
man, I was with it. I said, give me another one. Why not? And then the last one here. So when I played in Turkey, they have a great respect for authority. Like their president, all these things. Their president is like in every gym. It's a huge picture of whoever it is. And it's a little weird, but whatever. Every culture has their things. So win, lose, or indifferent, at the end of the game, they show respect to the fans, to the other team, to the other coaches, and to the president, which is a picture, whatever, by running at the end of the game. So like, we won the game. I'm exhausted. I had a double. I'm done. I'm going to the locker room. They're like, no, we got to go run. I said, what do you mean? I just ran for 40 minutes. This is, by the way, someone tell me it's like the one person that speaks English on the team, and she's like, never plays. And she's like, we got to go run. And I'm like, you've been sitting there. I've been playing. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm exhausted. And she's like, no, we just have to do like 10 half court and back out of respect. I said, for what? We won. They need to respect us. It was just the wildest thing. So I reluctantly ran, and I had a meeting with the president of the club the next day. And he goes, I heard there was some, pushback that you didn't want to run. And I said, no, I just didn't understand it. It was very confusing for me. We won. And he's like, well, we don't want it to look bad on the club. So just so you know, every time we run. I was like, great. This is going to be a great season. I mean, I had such a bad attitude. I was fresh out of college where, you get taken care of, and they're like, yeah, we got to go run. I'm like, what the crap is this? I understand if we lose by like 40 points, probably doing some kind of punishment run, something. Cool.
You're feeling a little entitled, weren't you?
100%. I'm like, what do you mean we got to run? Yeah. So those are some fun stories for you.
Those are fun. So it's fantastic to spend this time together, and you sharing your philosophy, some of your approach, some of your stories with myself and with everybody else who's going to listen. And anyway, I just have one final message for the audience, at least. For those who are interested in working directly with Coach Sam, she is accepting new clients for fitness, nutrition, and habit coaching. And I tell you right now, since she's come on board for the last almost 3.5 years now, she has clients that have not left her side since the very beginning.
Yeah.
There's an extremely high retention rate for a reason. And so if you want to work with her directly, just head over to forgept.com, FORGEPT. So choose a program that would best suit your needs. She's fantastic, and you're just not going to go wrong. If you have any questions, or you have some comments or things of that nature, this is literally a brand new podcast, and we're looking to make it absolutely fantastic. We want it to be entertaining, but more importantly, we want it to be honest and authentic. We want it to be the real truth, at least as best as we can tell, about fitness, nutrition, habit, keeping your mindset in check. And just remember that, as Coach Sam said, that you are where you are because of you. And that could be either good 100%. Or bad. So any last words before we go?
No, I thank you for this time, Michael. I think it's really important to get the word out and get real information to those who are seeking it, because there are so many outlets that are pushing a lot of false narratives for monetary gain. And if there's one thing that I will say about Forge is we want to relate to you on a human level. We care. We have great interpersonal relationships with all of our clients. Clients are asking how I'm doing too. And it's nice. It's not a transactional thing. I'm not the one in charge. We work together. I need to meet you at a human level and vice versa. You're not just a number to us. We know your names and look forward to helping you on your journey.
That's right. Well, if you go to forgept.com, you can book a free consultation to get to know her a little bit more and see if you want to work with her. Or you can just sign right up and just fuck all the excuses and actually get to work. Excuses are just justification for not doing it.
Absolutely.
There's no reason not to. And anyway, thank you everybody for listening or watching. Sammy, you're a fantastic, absolutely integral part of this team, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers to everybody. To the next time. Take care.
Remake yourselves, folks.